Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're exploring a pretty mind-bending idea about intelligence.
Oh, this one's fascinating, right? Not just, calculation or how machines learn, but thinking about intelligence as maybe a fundamental part of the universe itself, like a basic force.
Exactly, sort of like gravity, maybe a field that's just there.
Yeah, always present, always exerting some kind of subtle pull.
It really does flip the script, doesn't it? Instead of intelligence being something we create or that just emerges from complexity, it suggests it's this pervasive thing that minds tap into. This pole you mentioned, it suggests this sort of dance and interaction with some kind of inherent order.
A dance. I like that. And someone who seems to embody this, maybe intuitively, is the musician Jacob Collier.
Collier, yes. We've been looking at some writing by J. Poole, who calls him a sonic gravitationalist.
That's a powerful phrase, sonic gravitationalist, isn't it? It paints this picture of someone not just like making music up, but sensing it, revealing the structure that's already there, like he's tuning into something fundamental. What does that description spark for you?
Well, what's really striking is how it captures his almost effortless way of finding music in places you wouldn't expect.
Like what?
Well, everyday sounds, right? A phone buzz, someone breathing, even a cough. He finds the musicality in them. It really highlights this idea that maybe music, or at least musical potential, is woven into the fabric of things. He's not forcing music onto the sounds, he's sort of uncovering it.
Yeah, like he's got the right receiver tuning into a frequency that's already broadcasting.
Exactly. And then you look at what he does with audiences, turning hundreds of people into one voice, one instrument, almost instantly.
Oh, that's incredible to watch. It feels like more than just clever conducting. It hints at something else, maybe a collective intelligence, finding expression, and emergent harmony.
That's a really potent example of how this field idea might play out, the way harmony just appears seemingly spontaneously from the crowd.
Yeah, it suggests that the potential for intelligent organization, for order, it's not just in the individuals, but maybe it's in the connections between them.
Okay, so are we making intelligence or are we just setting the stage for it to show up?
That's the big question, isn't it? Creating the conditions for it to reveal itself.
And this is where Poole's idea gets really expansive. The suggestion is that what Collier does with music, well, it's not just about music, right? It's a model for other things.
Exactly. That maybe language, logic, even our emotions or our sense of ethics, they might all be different ways this underlying intelligence field expresses itself.
Different facets of the same thing, not separate boxes like a prism.
Precisely. Think about white light hitting a prism. You see all the colors, red, blue, green.
Yeah.
But those colors weren't created by the prism. They were always in the white light. The prism just made them visible, separated them out.
So intelligence in this view isn't broken up into music, math, language.
Yeah. It's one unified thing.
A unified force.
Yeah. That just looks different depending on how we perceive it or interact with it. Different refractions.
Okay, so let's unpack some of those other refractions mentioned. Mathematics is described as, the crystalline geometry of intelligence?
That captures the sense of inherent structure, doesn't it? The inescapable logic and pattern in numbers, almost like looking at the field's blueprint. And ethics, that constant push and pull of right and wrong, that's seen as the balancing vector of intelligence in motion.
Like intelligence itself is trying to find equilibrium through our actions and decisions. It gives these concepts a sense of inherent dynamism, almost life.
What about emotion?
Emotion as the resonance pattern of internal states, attuned to meaning.
So feelings aren't just random firings. There are internal systems resonating with the meaning we find or seek in the world.
A deep connection and storytelling. The narrative flow of intelligence across time, our fundamental drive to make sense of things, to connect events, to pass on understanding. That's intelligence weaving itself through time via narrative.
Wow. Even science fits in, right, as the recursive refinement of intelligence as a map of the real.
Science is intelligence trying to understand itself and the universe through this cycle of observation, hypothesis, testing, revising, constantly refining the map. It really makes you think differently about, say, why some becomes a mathematician versus a musician versus a social worker.
Bull uses this idea of minds orbiting different facets. Some are drawn to numbers, some to sound, some to the complexities of human suffering, but the key is they're all orbiting the same star, the same central pull.
Exactly, all within the same gravitational field of intelligence, just interacting with different aspects of it, not separate universes, just different vantage points.
Tolls the idea of strict disciplinary silos completely. And there's that nice analogy of Mercury's of mind and Neptune's of reflection, right? The fast, close orbits versus the slow, deep ones.
Yes, some people dive in intensely, rapidly exploring one facet, the Mercuries. Others take a wider, slower, more reflective path, the Neptunes. But nobody's outside the field.
No one's outside the field. Different orbits, different speeds, different depths, but all part of the same system.
Okay, let's bring it back to Collier. This idea of the conductor within. What's that about? It's not just skill, is it? It seems to be about coherence.
That's the word used. A strong self-center of gravity, meaning that his various talents and insights, the harmony, the rhythm, the improvisation, the technology, they aren't fighting each other. They work together, resonate internally.
It's like his inner world is harmonically aligned, a well-tuned instrument.
Maybe that's a great way to put it, where all the strings vibrate in sympathy. That internal coherence seems key to being able to really deeply listen to that broader field of intelligence.
So if we think about aligned intelligence, whether that's us humans striving for it or maybe future AI, the goal isn't necessarily just raw processing power or mastering one single skill.
No, this model suggests something different. It points towards resonance among facets, and attunement to the field, rather than just control over outputs, and maybe harmonic participation instead of isolated genius complex.
Harmonic participation. I like that. It sounds less hierarchical.
Exactly. The future of intelligence viewed this way isn't a pyramid with one type at the top. It's more like an orchestrated gravity.
Orchestrated gravity. Explain that.
Well, like an orchestra where each instrument, each player, or each mind contributes something essential to the whole piece, guided not by rigid command, but by the underlying score, the underlying field. It's dynamic, collaborative, evolving.
It's a very different picture of progress, which brings us to a really powerful concluding thought, that maybe the most brilliant minds, the Colliers, the Einsteins, whoever, maybe they're not inventing intelligence from scratch.
Maybe they're just exceptionally good at tuning in.
They've somehow developed the ability to listen more closely, more deeply than most of us to something that's fundamentally there. It reframes genius, doesn't it? Less about creation ex nihilo from nothing and more about profound perception, recognizing patterns, sensing structures that are already woven into reality, waiting to be noticed.
So wrapping up this deep dive, we've explored this really quite radical idea of intelligence as a fundamental field. A bit like gravity, a constant presence influencing minds.
And we used Jacob Collier as this amazing case study, someone who seems deeply tuned into that field, at least in the realm of music, the sonic gravitationalist, right? But we saw how this might extend much further, how things like math, ethics, emotion could be just different facets, different dimensions of this one underlying intelligence.
Not separate subjects, but refractions of the same light.
And we talked about how we all might be orbiting different aspects of this field, engaging with it in our own ways, at our own speeds, the Mercuries and the Neptunes of mind, but all within the same pull, ultimately suggesting that real insight might come less from forcing things and more from listening,
a deeper, more coherent listening.
Which leads us to a final thought, a question, really, for you listening. If this is true, if the biggest breakthroughs, the most profound ideas, come not from pure invention, but from attuning ourselves more deeply to an intelligence already present, what might you be able to hear, to perceive, if you listened more closely and more intently within your own field of interest, your own work, your own life? What underlying order or potential might be waiting there?
It's a powerful question to sit with.
It really is. We genuinely love to hear what you think, what resonates, what challenges this idea sparks for you. Drop your thoughts, your own aha moments in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going.